Hi y'all, Kraken Latte here. Since this topic was highly requested, here's part 1 of my UI videos. This first video will include a brief UI tutorial identifying what everything is. I will also go over the listed add-ons here, and I will answer a few questions at the end. ElvUI and WeakAuras 2 are the other major add-ons that make up the bulk of my UI. I'll cover these in part 2 as they are way harder to explain than everything else. To preface this, ElvUI can cover what most of these other add-ons do, but I prefer the style and extra features of these other add-ons to supplement my UI. Plus, patch days are usually pretty smooth since my UI doesn't rely solely on 1 or 2 add-ons. As a note, I'll have timestamps for each of these sections in the description down below. Okay, let's start with the tutorial. The green arrows on screen here point to what each add-on is. The boxes show where something will pop up. I'll keep this brief, so feel free to pause. Anything you might see that doesn't seem to be covered is because it's really small or infrequently used, and I've already gone over it in my 8.3 add-ons list. The link for that video is in the description below. Alright, let's go over the add-ons. The most obvious one here is SexyMap. This is my mini-map and clock. To customize this, go to Interface, Add-ons, and down to SexyMap. The initial window has pretty basic stuff. Lock and unlock position, rotate the map, scale its size, and so on. This is also where you'll select the base map to use. It comes with some great presets, all of which are easily modifiable. Also on this screen are your profiles. Each character can have their own unique map, which is what I do. You can also have a global profile, but I've never actually used this feature. Going on to the next page, this is where you can modify your chosen preset. Don't worry, it's a lot easier than you think. Under the Borders column are all the active parts of your map. Each one can be modified or even deleted. The options in each are simple. You can adjust color and transparency, you can change the texture path code, which you can take from other maps and add it to yours, but I usually leave this part alone. You can also make parts rotate and adjust their speed. You can scale each item, you can change the layering and blend of each item, and you can adjust the width, height, and position of each item. Each section will have similar options, so just play with it until you're happy. On to the buttons. This part should be fairly self-explanatory. These are the buttons you can have shown or hidden on your mini-map. You can move them around too, which is nice. I prefer to have very few, if any, showing so it doesn't feel cluttered. The clock part is also pretty simple. Position, size, font, color, the usual stuff. I especially like the on hover feature. If you want, you can also have coordinates show. This goes super handy with TomTom. You can also enable and lock movers. This is referring to your vehicle icon and quest list. I just leave them on since another add-on, Quester, deals with this. Ping options are also pretty nice. You can choose how pings notify you. I like mine on my map since that's where I'll be looking anyway. And last, we have zone text. This is the option to show what zone you're in on your map. Color, size, font, and so on are all at your disposal. I actually have mine off as I use a WeakAura for this. I'll go over that in the next video. Hopping back to the first page, now that you've customized your add-on, you can copy this character's profile to other alts. You can also delete them if you want. And that's pretty much it. That's SexyMap. Let's do OPie next. OPie is awesome. I love using it for extra items, mounts, and abilities that I want on quick access, but not on my action bars. I like to have my mage ports as well as my hunter and lock pets on OPie, as it keeps my bars clean. You can even put an OPie ring in an OPie. That's how I have these here. Just mouse over the second OPie icon and scroll through with your mouse wheel. To modify this, go to Interface, Add-ons, and OPie. Now don't be alarmed. There is a lot here, but I don't mess with most of it. The part I use is custom rings. My main two are mounts and ports. Since I'm on a mage teleports and portals are visible as well. So to make a new one, hit New Ring. Inside here, this column of items will be blank for you. but as you can see, you can add nearly anything you want. And what I like is if you're on an alt that can't use something, like my mage can't use the death gate, it simply won't show on that character. So, to add something, hit this little plus and find what you want to add, and then double click it. Then it will show on the list. As you can see here, I just added a new ability to my port's OPie. If you didn't want that item though, go back to the OPie you made, find that icon, and hit delete slice. Now this red bar here is what you have your OPie keybound to. Make sure you add that before you're finished. And that's it. That's how I use OPie. Next up, we have PhanxBuffs. This is simply a buff and debuff add-on. I have my buffs here, and my debuffs here. Yes, I know LVY has this option too, but I prefer this add-on. To modify it, go to Interface, Add-ons, and PhanxBuffs. This one's pretty straightforward. Size, font, spacing, and so on. The best part is that you can move them wherever you want and adjust which way they grow. I like mine down at the bottom since it's important to watch your feet in raids and dungeons. This add-on really is as simple as that. Another little add-on is Quester. This modifies your quest list. To adjust it, go to Interface, Add-ons, and Quester. All of your options are self-explanatory, but my favorite feature is having a peon or peasant announce when your quest is done. Next up is KUI Nameplates. This is a highly customizable nameplate add-on. What makes this special is you can get an addition that makes it compatible with the Total Roleplay 3 add-on. That's why you see some name tags with a first and last name. Like before, go to Interface, Add-ons, and KUI Nameplates. Now you can immediately see that this has an intense amount of customization. I'm not going to explain every detail of this add-on, as that would take all day. But one of the most important parts, of course, would be the text section. For this add-on, I highly encourage you just play with it until you like it. There's a lot of little things to adjust. The next add-on is Prat. This is my chat add-on. As shown here, it comes with some awesome minimalistic fade and transparency options that I love it for. To modify this, type /Prat. Now there's a lot here, but it isn't too complicated. What you'll mainly be concerned with here is the tabs section. This is where you can hide and show your chat tabs to work with them. For this, just turn on General since that might be all you have. Right-click on the General tab and you can see some options. Background is an important one. This is where you change the color and transparency of the panel. You can also make new chat windows from here, as well as the option to make the window non-interactive. Font size is also here. Now to get more specific, hit Settings. This is where you'll tell Prat what to track in each of your chat windows. Since I'm an RPer, I have emotes, loot, and NPC dialogue in a different window. Going back to Prat, you can see there are a lot of other options too. You can get super detailed on how you want everything to work. I won't cover everything, but one thing I'd like to point out is that you can add sounds to your chat. I really like this as I tab out a lot for work, so I don't miss someone trying to talk to me. Usually. You can turn on or off different modules if you don't use them, as well as setting up profiles. I like my chat on the global default, so I don't have to mess with it. And that's about it for Prat. Next up, we got a little add-on called Masque. This is a type of skin mod that works with a lot of other add-ons like OPie, PhanxBuffs, LVY, Weak Auras, and more. This is what's changing the shape of these add-ons. To modify it, go to Interface, Add-ons, and Masque. Now as you can see here, and as you'll see when you go to download it, there are a lot of extra Masque add-ons, and you need those to make it work. I've got a few, but mainly I use Circ for that circular shape. Now to apply this, hit Skin Settings. From here, you can select what add-ons will use what mask. You can even change the shadow, color, and so on. You can also set different masks for each part of LVY and every single weak aura, which is pretty intense. Other than that, you've pretty much got it set up. Next up, we've got Add-on Control Panel. There's been some confusion on how this works, so I've included it here. This lets you save groups of add-ons into profiles. As you see here, I only use about half of my add-ons at any time. Many of them are situational, so I just leave them off. but instead of clicking every single add-on on or off on a new character, I just load the profile with this add-on. And this prevents having to use a global profile like the base game offers, since you might have some special class-specific add-ons. Simply turn on and off all the add-ons you want. Hit the Sets button and save to a set. You can rename this whatever you want, and presto, a profile. To load up the profile on an alt, just go to the Sets again, hit Load, and then reload. Simple as that. King Kong Frame Fader is the next one I'll go over. This add-on attributes to my seemingly minimal UI by letting me fade out anything I want, including other add-ons. As I'm showing you here, this isn't me turning off my UI for the video. This is just my screen when I'm not in combat. Now the fading of my action bars is done by LVUI, but everything else that doesn't come with the fade is covered by this add-on. Now there is a slight issue with this add-on, and that's that LVUI doesn't like it, but they can play nice if you know the workaround. Typing /Kong will bring up your options, but not if LVUI is on. Simply go to your add-ons list and turn off everything that's LVUI related and reload. Now you can open your menu. You'll know you did it right when your screen goes blue like this. To find the one you want, scroll your mouse wheel until you see it. Once you find it, click on it so it's highlighted and click the Hide Selected Frame here. Now there's multiple options, but the only part I ever use is the Show When section. The 3 options under here are used depending on what you want. If you want something, like your buffs, to be hidden only out of combat, then you just check Shown Alpha and leave it at 100%. I also like setting the fade in time to 0 so it shows up instantly, and then the fade out time to 4 seconds. There is a delay option too, but I never use it. Now I just leave the other 2 sections blank. This lets my buffs hide when I'm not in combat and show when I'm fighting or on a vehicle. Something else I like to fade is my quest list. I put similar settings on this as before, but instead of leaving the other 2 sections blank, I changed the 100% to 30%. This makes my quest list still show while in combat, but at a 30% fade so it's not as distracting. Now I fade various other things like monkey speed and spy, but that's pretty much how I use King Kong Frame Fader. It has a lot more to it, but I just use it at a very basic level. Now for a highly requested one, DynamicCam. This is my camera add-on that allows me to have that theatrical feel. This one, like the others, can look complicated, but it's not so bad once you know what you're looking at. So what this add-on does is it takes the new built-in action cam and gives it commands. All of this can be done through code you type into the game, but that's why we have this add-on so we don't have to. So, to customize this, go to Interface, Add-ons, and DynamicCam. On the first page, make sure you have Enable and Use Action Cam checked. I also have Advanced Mode checked, but I don't really use it. So you'll first see Settings. This is for a global profile that reacts the same no matter what. As you can see, mine's off because there is an even more awesome feature for this. Situations. You can literally set up your camera to react differently based on your situation. And the best part is once you understand how to set up one, you can set up them all. They all have the same options. First, you'll want to go through the list and enable each situation that you want to have a special setup. That's why some of my list is gray. You don't have to use all of them. Once you do that, pick one and look through your options. The developers for this add-on were awesome and gave detailed tooltips for each piece. So if you're like me and don't really understand camera jargon, this will help a ton. I'm not doing a full guide for this since it would take way too long, but I really encourage you to read through this and learn what everything does. It's useful to note this also lets you have multiple profiles. I've only got 2, Default and Druid. The only difference is Druid's head bob is turned down since it can get a bit wild with all their forms. This add-on also lets you import and export profiles, so if you don't want to set up your own and just use mine, check out my paste bin in the description. Moving on, we've got Executive Assistant. This is a handy in-game to-do list that you can create to help keep yourself on track. To get this started, go to Interface, Add-ons, and Executive Assistant, and then open Configuration. You can immediately see there's a lot here, but like before, I'll just show you how I use it. Most of this I just leave on default, so to make your list, hit the Task Management tab. First off, make a new group and give it a color. This can be anything you want, just name it like a category since this will hold your list items. Now in your new group, hit the Add Task button. This adds an item to your group, which you can now modify. Rename your task by typing here. Once you've done that, set the options for what this task is. Daily, weekly, manual, is it account-wide, and what days do you want it to hide? If you want this to be character specific, that's what changing these two options will do here. And that's pretty much it. You can add as many groups and tasks as you want. Alright, that's about it for the add-ons overview, with the exception of LVY and weak auras. Those will be in part 2. Now let's cover a few questions that are a bit more specific. 4 questions, in fact. The first question is, how do I track my cooldowns? I do this in 2 ways. The first way is with an add-on called Doom Cooldown Pulse. This flashes your abilities when they come off of cooldown. I don't do any setup on this, I just used the default settings and moved it over where I wanted it. The other way is by the numbers on my bars. This is a base option in the game, and that's it. The second question is, what do I use this UI for? The simple answer is everything. I have my UI set up to activate when I'm in combat, and then to fade out when I'm not. So I can raid, RP, farm gold, all in the same UI. I technically have 2 UIs, but the only difference is that I've moved where LVY's raid and party frames sit for healing specs. I'll go over that in the next video, but both of my LVY profiles are actually in my paste bin in the description. The third question is, how do I have so few buttons? I can do this because I use a variety of macros like shift, mod, and mouse over. Much like how console games have button combinations to use an ability, I've done that with WoW. So all of my abilities are on my bars, they're just activated with macros. If you're all interested in the plethora of macros I use and how I make them, I'd be happy to make a video on that. And the fourth question is, how do I balance this UI with alts? Each time I make a new character, I do a one-time setup and then leave it alone, thanks to profiles and such. This includes setting up my spec with action bar profiles, which I'll go over in the next video. In the background, I've got a view on what setting up a new alt looks like. And that's it. Thank you everybody for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like it if you did, and tell me down below if you didn't. Hit that subscribe button for more coffee-fueled content, and remember, it's never too latte.